Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon to our respected panel, that is Madam Azhar binti Mustafa and Dr. Fitri Amir. Okay, before we start our presentation, I would like to introduce my group member. The first one is me. My name is Nur Arifah Munira binti Azhar, and the second one is Nur Hanania binti Muhammad Yusuf. So, our title or scope that we choose entitled The Knowledge of Perceived Ease of Use, Perceived Security and Customer Intention to Use Paywave System in Langkawi Tourism Experience.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to our panel, Madam Azlan and Dr. Fitri. My name is Norharani binti Muhammad Yusuf, and for the chapter 1, I will present about the background of study, problem statement, operational definition and significance of the study. For the background of study, Paywave system is categorized as one of the contactless payment method branches. The term of contactless payment refer to a secure method for consumer to purchase product or service using a debit, credit, smart card or other payment device by using radio frequency identification (FRID). Meanwhile, as reported by the Law Insider 2016, Visa payment main functionality as part of Visa debit card that allow transaction to be made at participating machines by holding card capable of making a contactless transaction in front of the contactless terminal. Visa payment is a payment was option that allow consumer to make payment using their Visa card or their mobile device at the point of sale or in front of the cashier. Most of the places accept Visa payment will accept Paywave because Paywave is a very acceptable nowadays. Most of the shop or shopping complex such as fast food restaurant, grocery store, taxis, and more accept Paywave system. Cardholder transaction size is restricted to the contactless payment. The amount of the money that can be spent on contactless transaction varies depending on the country and the bank. For the example, in Malaysia, the Paywave usage limit is merely RM 250 ringgit only. For the problem statement, the average user will use a credit card and Paywave to facilitate their transaction at the payment counter. This is because they do not need to carry a lot of cash with them for safety factors such as being able to avoid the problem of being robbed and snatched while carrying cash. Therefore, the credit payment method become their number one choice. However, to what extent is general knowledge of Paywave user are aware about all the disadvantages and negative effect due to the Paywave users? Maybe it is just because of current trend or because it is easy and convenient to use. Perhaps they think that they can avoid the physical crime, but they cannot avoid the internal problems such as result of the use of this credit card or Paywave. Among the problem that often occur to the is theft of money in the bank without the cardholder realize it is happened and the owner personal data was leaked.
For research objective and research question. Okay, for research objective, RO1 is to investigate the perceived ease of use and the positive effect for consumer intention to use the Paywave card. And RO2 to determine the perceived security and the positive effect towards consumer intention of the Paywave card user. While for the research question, is the perceived ease of use give the positive effect on consumer intention towards Paywave card of users. While the second question is, does the perceived security give the positive effect to the consumer intention of the Paywave card user? Okay, for research framework, we have two independent variable and one dependent variable. So the first for the independent variable is perceived ease of use. It is also known as the hypothesis 1, and the second is perceived security. It also for the hypothesis number 2. And for our dependent variable is consumer intention on using Paywave system. So this framework is adapted from Chu and Shen 2012 and Hernandez and Mazan 2007. Okay, for research hypothesis, for H1 is perceived ease of use does have positive effect for customer intention to use the Paywave method among tourists in Langkawi. For H2 or hypothesis 2 is perceived security does have the positive effect for customer intention to use the Paywave method among tourists in Langkawi.
Significance of the study. For the academical, the study contribute to the body of the knowledge about the importance to have a safe Paywave payment because it can certify user satisfaction and how user put their trust on it. And for the industry, this research signifies the significance of the perceived ease of use and customer trust of the payment method is implied the major topic discussed in this research that is Paywave method. Lastly is operational definition. Paywave card. Paywave card is considered unique and one of the method payment that is contactless and fastest payment.
Okay, for chapter 2, for literature review, I will explain about the dependent variable and also the independent variable. So the first one I would like to explain about the independent variable for the consumer intention. So consumer intention means that from the fundamental construct of term or known as technology acceptance models is the PEOU or known as perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness is the core determinants in user adoption. And this is cited by Venkatesh and Davis 2000. Okay, for the independent variable, the first is perceived ease of use. Okay, the first one is it can represent the term of innovation of such thing that easy to understand and learn on how to operate by Rogers 1962, while the other meaning can bring the concept that affect the ease of use on consumer, that not only intention of usage but also how it happen, whether it directly or vice versa or non-directly. So it is by Hernandez and Mazan 2017. While for the perceived security, so it means that customer intend to use e-banking payment include Paywave, as its usefulness will not only be the determinants but also its security by Vijajka 2015.
For the research design, this study used quantitative descriptive research method as the research design to study objective 1 and objective 2, that is to investigate perceived ease of use and positive effect for customer intention to use Paywave, and to determine perceived security and positive effect on customer intention to use Paywave. For the data collection, we have primary data and secondary data. For the primary data, the questionnaire that we use on the quadric survey, and for secondary data is the knowledge that we get from the internet and from the previous research paper. For the population example, is our population and is 1.8 million tourists visit Langkawi in 2020. Our sample size is 385. We calculate our sample size on the calculator net based on the number of tourists visit Langkawi in 2020. The sampling design is a probability sampling in the population have to no change of being chosen as a subject in the sample. The technique we use is a simple random sampling. Questionnaire design. Our questionnaire on the quadric survey create based on the independent variable and dependent variable. For the independent variable is perceived ease of use and perceived security, while for dependent variable is customer intention to use Paywave system. The measurement on questionnaire is Likert score, which respond scale from 1 to 5. 1 equal to strongly disagree to 5 is strongly agree. Reliability test is a measurement in order to assess whether all the elements in each variable in the questionnaire are closely related or reliable. Based on the Glenn 2014, the value for the Cronbach alpha that is less than 0.6 is considered poor, and value for 0.9 is excellent. In the study, we are required to collect 30 respondents to answer our questionnaire on the quadric survey before we are able to find the real 385 respondents.
Okay, for chapter 4, that is for data analysis. For the first one is the survey result. So here we can see the age is one of the demographic things or characteristic. So we collect the data from under 18 years old until 39 until 48 years old. Okay, next, still in terms of demographic, so we collect the data from gender and marital status. For the gender, we have male and female, total of 385 respondents altogether. And for the marital status, also 385 respondents. So the last data that we collect under demographic is state. So total of all states that we have gathered is about 14 states. So the total of the respondents that have responded to this questionnaire is about 385 also. So for descriptive analysis, so here we have highlight the mean score of the perceived ease of use. So the highest mean score is the learning how to use Paywave is easy for me. So the mean score is about 4.4883, while the standard deviation is 0.59555. While the lowest mean score here is using Paywave allow me to manage my transaction more efficiently, about 4.1818 for the mean, while the standard deviation is about 0.71675. Okay, move on to table mean score of perceived security use Paywave. So the highest mean score here is I feel at ease when using Paywave. The mean score is about 4.3766, while the lowest mean score is I confident that the transaction conducted through Paywave is secure and private. It's about 4.1506 is the lowest mean score for perceived security. So move on to mean score for customer intention to use Paywave. So the highest mean score is Paywave payment method is very convenient, about 4.477, while the lowest mean score is Paywave are widely used by people in my community is the lowest mean by the 3.9740. Okay, here the descriptive analysis for customer experience about Paywave file in Langkawi. So the first question that we highlighted is have you been to Langkawi for tourism purpose? So the people or respondent answer is about 385 people altogether, and the second question is while you are in Langkawi, did you make any transaction through Paywave payment method? So the frequency that say yes about this question is about 347%. Okay, so for the next question, still under the consumer or customer experience in Langkawi. Okay, the question is while you are in Langkawi, were you aware of Paywave as a payment method? So the yes answer is about 366 people, while the next question is did the tourist attraction you visited in Langkawi provide the Paywave payment method? So the frequency of people that answer this question is about 368 that said yes to this question. Here, the question is still under the customer experience while in Langkawi. So the question is how often did you use Paywave payment while traveling in Langkawi? So here, the most contributed answer is twice. Twice, they used the Paywave payment system while in Langkawi. About 136 out of 385 respondents, that is the total that all the respondents answered for this question.
For the reliability test, all the variable, that is independent variable and dependent variable, score more than 0.8. So based on the Glenn 2014, our reliability tests are considered very good. In this study, we apply peer-person correlation. Peer-person correlation is a statistical method for calculating and analyzing the strength of the positive or negative link between two independent variables. According to the Zakaria Jadi 2019, the size of correlation for 0.5 to 0.7 is a moderated correlation, while for the 0.7 to 0.9 consider high positive correlation. Because perceived ease of use was scored 0.74 and perceived security score 0.66. The remark for the hypothesis are supported for the both independent variable. Multiple linear regression analysis is a technique for determining the effect an independent variable on a dependent variable. From the table, R equal to 0.7 with an adjusted R square of 0.63. While for the ANOVA test result, the table shows the independent variable statistically significant predict the dependent variable f equal to 3 to 9.263, p-value less than 0.005. Coefficient result. The standardized beta coefficient for perceived ease of use is 0.534 and 0.355 for perceived security. Significant value for both independent variable are less than 0.005.
Okay, for chapter 5. For this chapter, we will discuss about the discussion, the limitation, and the conclusion. So the first one, I will talk about the discussion. So what we find throughout this research is that ease of use and security is the remarkable determinants for consumer or customer intention to use Paywave method. So ease of use actually can determine whether the consumer intend to use the Paywave or not. So by that thing, so it will create such a mind of ease of mind or a good intuition that they will use the Paywave is it have the ease of use. So many, but on the other hand, many people has a weak understanding when it comes to the bank security risk, even if they were aware what is the risk it is. So for the purpose of study, the first one that will be the purpose is we want to know to what extent is the knowledge of the people that use the Paywave or already get to know what is Paywave is. So instead of that, we also want to know their knowledge about the perceived ease of use and their perceived security and the relation with the customer intention. So the second is the correlation between perceived ease of use and perceived security rules towards the consumer intention. So by doing this research, we want to know what is the relationship or correlation between these two things, that is perceived ease of use and security towards the consumer intention to use the Paywave system method.
Issue of study. Contactless payment. Now there are many payment methods including online payment, payment using pay and debit. Therefore, our difficulty is to get respondent those who are only using Paywave system. Paywave research is a new topic that less popular among the academicians, regardless whether the research is conducted within or outside of the country.
So for the limitation, the first one is behavioral of the users might be very challenging from time to time. So that's mean, so we are doing the research of the respondent that use the Paywave or know the Paywave. But instead of that, we don't do the research upon to the non-users of Paywave. That's the behavioral changes that we don't know in detail. So the second one is the data collection only limits for the who have been to the Langkawi Island. So in the questionnaire, when you click on the no answer for the either who's you have been to the Langkawi, so you cannot proceed to answer all the question. So the last one is limitation of time. So during the COVID, even though that we are prohibited to work from home under this situation, it sounds so comfy, but the work are 2 times double the load that we already use or do the work at home. So we are rushing to finish this task and this research. That's why we get to see that the limit or limitation for our research is the time. For the recommendation, the first is the future studies should be more focused on the whole Malaysia region. So from our research, we just covered the Langkawi places or the attraction, but not the whole region of Malaysia. So we hope that the future researcher can do the research maybe in this field, but cover the whole Malaysia region. So they or on general, we could know more the whole phenomenon on what the people intend to use or what the pattern that they don't want or such things. And the second is pay facilities should also be increased in rural areas. So for us, we highlight this recommendation because usually people have the perspective or skeptical thinking that the people in the rural area doesn't know about this or lack of knowledge about these things. But we should know that people that live in rural area that do not all of them are lack of knowledge about these things, but there are also the group of working that are intellectual about these things. So the last one is researches to be conducted should be aimed at non-consumers to identify why they do not intend to use Paywave. So in our research, we just highlight or we want to do the research for the users of Paywave, but not the non-users of Paywave. So we do not get the whole picture of why the non-users Paywave do not intend to use this. So in the future, if they cover this research for the non-users or non-consumers, so we will know about why they do not intend to do so.
Conclusion. Paywave is a relatively new topic in this technological area, so perspective may be limited. This study focused on the customer intention to use Paywave and their perception of ease of use and security. In fact, making Paywave broadly recognized will necessitate an extensive research in terms of change from many relevant parties, particularly merchants who will have to adopt and change the traditional Paywave method. Lastly, overall, this study fulfilled all of its objective and provide empirical evidence about the perceived ease of use, perceived security, and customer intention to use Paywave system in Langkawi. I think that's all from us. Thank you.